Hey everybody, what's going on? It's Joseph Malone back in here, and today we're going to be talking about assets and liabilities. Now, before you guys say anything, yes, I am wearing a sun hat on the inside, okay? Today is a bad hair day. I don't want to hear nothing about it. I'm actually kind of sporting it pretty good. I'm liking it. I just got it in the mail and I'm really feeling it. I like it. It looks very much like I'm about to go on like a safari adventure. Anyways, I want to make this video and I'm going to begin this series. It's called Personal Finance 101. And it's going to be a video series basically for young adults and other ages, but primarily targeted at young adults ages 17 to possibly 23. And we're going to be discussing some very foundational personal finance principles that will help you in the long run create wealth and be successful financially in your life. So the reason why this is the first video is because understanding what an asset and a liability is a very foundational principle to personal finance and also creating wealth. Some people might want to talk to you about like a budget and you need to stick within your budget, but I will challenge that paradigm and say that a budget really doesn't matter if you don't understand assets and liabilities. It's kind of like you really can't do multiplication in arithmetic unless you know how to do addition and subtraction. Like imagine trying to carry down those numbers in a long multiplication problem and you can't do the addition and subtraction. Now, yeah, you know your timetables and you can multiply 2 times 6, but what if you start getting more numbers now and you're carrying those numbers down? You have to do a bit of addition. So it's the same thing. You'll get stuck. You can do basic budgeting if you have some kind of budget formula. But when it comes down to getting more complex and reaching the goals that you want to reach, I think it's really important that you understand the foundations of wealth. And the foundations of wealth begins, in my estimation, with understanding assets and liabilities. So there's a really great book that I would strongly recommend that everybody read in their life. It's a book written by Robert Kiyosaki. This book completely changed my life, called, most people probably know it, Rich Dad Poor Dad. There's been some debate that the story was fiction and it wasn't entirely true. Regardless of if it was a true story or a fake story, the principles that was taught in the book are life-changing principles. And so let's get to it. What is an asset? And I'm gonna put up some graphics so you guys can kind of see how you divide this up. So an asset, just to think about it, there's a very complex financial term and definition of it. But to just break it down for somebody that's starting over, like starting new like you guys, an asset is something that puts money into your pocket. So when anybody, you can, like I said, you can get into the more complex definition if you would like, but I think that it's just very easy just to look at it in that term. Assets put money in your pocket. So what might be an asset? Okay, well, your job can be an asset because your job is putting money in your pocket. A second job can be an asset. A second job is putting money in your pocket. A rental property is putting money in your pocket if the deal was done correctly. Stocks, bonds, different types of investments are considered assets because they're putting money into your pocket. So, short definition, simple definition, assets put money into your pocket. So let's go on the other side. Liability. A liability actually does the opposite of an asset. A liability takes money out of your pocket. So think about things that take money out of your pocket, okay? Your place that you live at, you're paying rent, you have a house note. Now, this is a debatable one. Some people will say that a house is an asset, a house is a liability. It really just depends in my book how I define it. If you're talking about just a personal residence, it's a liability. Now, if you're talking about a house that's a rental property, then yes, it's generating income for you. But a house that's your primary residence, you're paying the mortgage, you're paying the maintenance for that property, you're paying insurance, taxes, and so forth. And all of those things are taking money out of your pocket. So for that reason, I don't consider it an asset. I put that in the liability corner. Another thing that's a liability is a car. This is a big thing. I've heard people tell me that my car is my biggest asset. I'm gonna drive this point home. It's probably been driven home enough times, but it can't hurt to drive it home one more time. The moment you drive it off the lot, literally as soon as you buy a brand new car, the moment it gets titled into your name, it just lost 10 to 15% of its value. So whatever you pay for it, you can you can subtract 10 or 15%, and that's what you just lost by having the DMV registered in your name, because it's no longer new. It is considered, it has had one owner at this point. Not only that, vehicles are typically I'm gonna show you guys a graph. Vehicles are typically on a graph where they are declining in value as they age. Because of wear and tear, they're mechanical devices, so they wear out, they tear, stuff like that. And then new vehicles are constantly being produced, so there's less demand for these older vehicles, right? So a vehicle falls into the column of being a liability. This would be an interesting one, but I'm gonna dare I say it, and we're gonna close the video out with this, just because I want to give you guys just a very foundational understanding of assets and liabilities. We're gonna, in the next video, connect it to wealth. Sometimes a person can be an asset or a liability. They can fall in either category. If you're dating somebody and you notice that you're the one who's always spending money, they're never doing anything for you, they're never reciprocating your energy, then they're probably in that liability category. They're costing you money, they're costing you time, they're costing you energy, and they're not bringing anything back. Whereas you can have a woman, if you're a man, or you can have a guy if you're a girl, who is an asset. They're putting money in your pocket, they're helping you further your dreams and so forth. They're fueling your energy, not taking away from you. And so you can look at things in that aspect too, in regards to people. So this has been a very foundational breakdown of assets and liabilities. Again, like I said, assets and liabilities is the key to building wealth, and we're going to make that connection in the next video, because the name of the game, basically, to build wealth, we're going to go into it more in depth, but the name of the game basically is you want to have more assets than liabilities. You want to keep your liabilities to be very far, few, and in between, and you want to just be building up the assets. You want to just build up the assets, and that's why I said it doesn't matter if you know how to budget, if you're not allocating your resources from your job or however you're producing income. If you're not allocating those resources appropriately into the asset column, and you're appropriating them more into the liabilities column, you can't get wealthy with liabilities. You never get wealthy. So the calculation is to have more assets, good assets, and we'll talk about that. Like I said in the next video, you want to have good assets that's going to put money in your pocket, because there's some assets that ain't going to put no money in your pocket. So you want to know how to purchase good assets, be able to assess a good asset. I give you guys just an example real quick. I just love talking about this. I light up talking about this kind of stuff. You can buy a house that you think is going to be a rental property and that you think you're going to make money on, but it actually, you think it's going to be an asset, right? And it actually ends up being a liability because you didn't properly assess the deal. You didn't give yourself a margin of error. You didn't assess what the intrinsic worth for the property was. You didn't assess how much rent you was going to be able to produce with it. You didn't assess what the expenses on it, taxes, insurance, and so forth. And so rather than it being an asset for you, it actually ends up being a liability for you. So again, foundationally, just to recap, we've learned today what an asset is and what a liability is. Assets put money in your pocket. Liabilities take money out of your pocket. It's debatable as to whether a personal residence is a asset, but in either case, what you want to do is have more assets than liabilities in the long run if you want to be wealthy. If you look at somebody's life and all they have is, if they fit in this category of like all that they have in their life is liabilities, you'll likely find that they're not very wealthy. But if you look at somebody and you see, okay, they're putting money in these assets, they can't help but be wealthy. It's just a calculation of how it works, particularly when you're buying good assets. And like I said, that will be the next video where we talk about a bit more about budgeting and allocating our resources into assets and liabilities. Because liabilities aren't inherently bad. Like, it's not inherently bad to want a nice car. It's not inherently bad to want to live in a nice house. Those things aren't bad. You shouldn't not aspire to have those things. But there is a way in which you go about achieving those things. And so we'll talk about that in the next video. But I hope you guys really pulled a lot out of this. I hope you enjoyed the video. And until the next time, my name is Joseph, and I'm out. Peace.